Hello world news people on Thursday. We're going to do a bit of housing and start with the United States of America. Mortgage delinquencies, foreclosure period in purple 30 days past due, and then 60 days, 90 days, and red is foreclosure process in progress. It's double where it was where the chart starts in 2005. And those mortgage foreclosures in progress is very, very large indeed. So I'll move on to the blurb talking of this chart and other charts. This other chart that's embedded into the writing here is Fannie, Freddie, FHA, I would think in blue, and the light blue are the private label securities, the investment banks that packaged up mortgages, and these have now defaulted and they've fallen back onto the private labels, the mortgage, the people that the securities were sold to in light blue, FHA, Fannie and Freddie below. They've got them for sale, REO, real estate owned by the bank, whoever it might be, and horrible big numbers. So we read. The second graph includes the data for the Fs and adds the Fs, Fannie and Freddie, and adds the private label securities. This is the investment banks that came in late into the game and were even wilder in their non-asking of questions about who could afford things, and they securitized them as quickly as possible and sold them on. But they have subsequently foreclosed and they've rebounded back on them, and they've got to do something with them. So we read, the PLS blew up first because it contained the worst of the worst loans, poorly underwritten subprime and Alt-A. The PLS wasn't set up to effectively manage REO, and they just dumped houses onto the market. Usually house prices are sticky, going downwards. Prices decline, but slowly. However, this dump of REOs led to what Tom Lawler called de-stickification, with house prices falling rapidly in many low-end areas with high foreclosure rates, and pulling the whole of the market down with them. As the basement fell away, the rest of the market fell down. Now, about half the REOs are owned by the Fs, and they are a little more careful in releasing REOs to the market. This is a bit of United States being hoist on its own petard. Obviously, with the way the fraud was allowed to run with the mortgage origination and the securitization, but a lot is involved in this recourse and non-recourse mortgage way of doing things. Non-recourse in many states in the United States means, and has meant in the past, besides the fact that the extra risk of that wasn't factored into the mortgage rate, that when little housing accidents around the country happened in the past, house prices did fall quickly, because what people do is when there is a problem, they are much more likely to send the keys back to the bank, and that rattles the whole market and brings prices down very quickly. Prices come down quickly, and generally what's happened in the past in the United States, there has been a wave coming in of some sort of boom or general rising of the general economy, which has risen the area back up again. In other words, it falls quickly, but then the movement, the rising movement of the economy comes in and rises it back up again. But this has been a general across country fall, badang, bringing the whole market down with it quickly, and the economy, and it's brought the economy down with it because it brought banking down with it, and there's no great wave to get the prices back up again. So what was normally a great advantage for America, because it would bring things down quickly and then reasonably quickly back up again, in fact very quickly back up again normally, hasn't worked because it's been a general fall which has been catastrophically across the country and has brought everything down, and there's nothing to float it up again. Moving on. This is from RealtyTrack, and expected discount for buying a foreclosed home versus a similar non-foreclosed home, United States. And as you can see, the people that expect no discount are very few. The people that expect 1 to 15% discount, in other words almost nothing, is very few. And then we start getting into it. 16 to 29%, 23% of the people think that's the sort of discount you should get. 30 to 50%, 30% of the people think that's the sort of discount you should get. And 36% of the people think you should get a discount on a REO of over 50%. And there are huge quantities of these REOs. The country of America is awash in them. And I think the general average there is 38%. Is the discount that people expect from expect on an REO house, and this is obviously ripping the market apart. Okay, the same survey from RealtyTrack, when American adults believe the housing market will recover. Down the middle we've got November 2010, 6 months ago, and April 2011. Now, already recovered. How many percentage of the people think the housing market has already recovered? Presumably those are the same 5% empty brains that thought the same in the market had recovered in November and April. 10% of people asked in 6 months ago thought the housing market would recover by the end of this year, but that is now down to 3%. 27% thought in November it would end at the end of 2012, and now that's dropped to 15%. Same percentage thought it would end in 2013. The pessimistic ones of 6 months ago, 34% thought it would take till 2014 or later, but that has now gone up to 54% of the people interviewed thought it would be 2014 or later. The United States has got the message that this is not a quick drop down, and here we go again. This is a shit. Okay. Let's move on to the United Kingdom, and I might say something about... I might say it now. No, I'll do this one, and then I'll say something more about the UK housing market. Public sector finances. This was released yesterday. Current budget deficit, including basically, well, let's go down to the bottom dot. At the end of April 2011, net debt excluding the temporary effects of financial interventions was 910 billion. It was 60.1% of GDP, up from 53% a year ago. From 53 up to 60%. That 60% is actually 149% of GDP if you include the interventions. They're still stacking the debt on. Okay. Over in Europe, we've got Spain and the UK, who've got very similar housing markets. There's been a dreadful boom. In Spain, there's been overbuilding as well, but the prices of houses has gone dreadfully high. And what is similar in the United States, UK and Spain is that the people are saturated with debt, all sorts of debt, but mainly predicated on this binge of house buying. They basically can't afford anymore. But things are sticky in Spain and the UK. House prices, they're not dropping quickly because there is no non-recourse. You have to pay your mortgage. So what people are doing are just basically paying their mortgage, and everything is fine. They just go on paying their mortgage, and as long as this pertains, there won't be a great housing crash as long as people can pay their mortgage. What's hanging over that? It's basically Europe. Spain is still in dreadful trouble with the cajas. That's their building society type non-profit banks that have been badly lending and could blow up. There's now, we know, Greece, Ireland, Portugal, Italy has now been coming into the running as trouble. Any of that could affect banking could knock on to UK banks, and if that happens, that could affect housing. But the main problem, and the thing that obviously is often concentrated on here, are the interest rates. If price inflation goes up and the Bank of England or the ECB are forced to raise interest rates, that could take the ability of the people to pay their mortgages away from them, and if that goes away, the props underneath housing prices goes away. So let's finish with this that sums up quite a lot of this quite nicely. It's for the UK, but it's for all OECD countries. This is a comment run on a Telegraph blog. Captain Quark must be a wonderful person to have down the pub that goes fact, 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 and hits us with these facts. Osborne has been in the Treasury now for a year and has spent more each month than Darling did in the corresponding months. Just saying, Conservatives are no better than Labour. Fact, if you keep spending more than you are earning, you go bankrupt. Fact, the UK government is spending more than it's earning and has been doing so for several years and intends to do so for several years more. The same blah, blah, blah that we're getting from just about everywhere, everybody everywhere, United States, UK and Spain, Italy, Greece, Portugal, everywhere. Kit Green comes with fact, UK government has always spent more than it earns, with the exception of a handful of years, and always will. That is how the economy expands, even if politically we don't like that scenario. A bit of good common sense from Kit Green. But that common sense is trumped by the reality common sense by Itzman at the bottom. But if the economy fails to expand, in other words, fails to do this growth, this growing things, if the economy fails to expand, we are truly shafted. And this is the big problem everywhere. Growth is essential, or we are truly shafted.